Hi, I'm Christy, the Age Tech Lady, and you're going to join me today. We're going to make some homemade air fresheners for sleepy time. So we're going to make some sleepy time air fresheners while I talk to you about some topics in age tech. As an introduction, my name is Christy. I have a master's in health psychology. I have an MBA, and I have been in the senior care industry for 20 years and the age tech industry for 10. So I'm excited to have you join me today while I talk about things that are important to me and that I care about. I'll also explain as I'm going what I'm doing with my craft, just because this is fun to make these. So the topic I want to talk about today is isolation and depression in the elderly, because I've been seeing that a lot. I've been hearing a lot about it, and in a different way than I was used to hearing it, 15 years ago. So I just want to give some of my thoughts. Let's talk about the craft real quick. I have some wax here. I think I'm going to need more. We're going to make an ombre style here. So we're going to use this transparent wax. And then as we go along, we're going to keep adding color to it. Oh no, this is stuck. That's new. Doesn't usually get stuck. I'm going to add my first layer here. No, that's too hot for my hand. All right, we're going to have to figure something else. Oh, that. Okay. I was able to get it out. All right, we're going to pour a thin layer of this transparent wax to be our first layer. As thin of a layer as I can while I fill everything up. So what I've been seeing lately that's different than normal, I think could be put into two buckets. Actually, there's many buckets. What I've been seeing lately is a combination of things. So first I'm seeing that something about the internet, something about having social media, people feel more comfortable just staying at home and not participating in their community, which is fine for some stages of life. But I'm seeing that it's leading to massive amounts of isolation in the elderly. And what I'm seeing is that they are wanting to have interaction with people. Everyone has a need for attention and affection. And the people that are providing that are scammers, romance scammers. I'm hearing a lot about that they take advantage of people that just need texts every day. They want someone to check in with them because it feels good, but it leads to poor decision making. It leads to poor judgment calls. It was called Breathe. It's just a mixture of essential oils that smells good and sleepy. And I'm seeing that people are wanting the attention, and it's really easy to get it off of social media or from people that want to take advantage. And that the seniors are secretive about this because it can be embarrassing. They're secretive about it because families are judgmental and they know that the access to that person may be cut off. And so that's what I'm seeing. Another thing that is important to note that I'm hearing about from families, particularly I hear this from families with loved ones using home care, is when someone's at home and isolated for most or all of the day, that they're using substances. And alcoholism has always been around, drug abuse has always been around, but the ease at which seniors can now get access to THC products and alcohol is causing a different influx of using these products to, I assume, keep away the loneliness. And so families are having to make hard decisions and decide, when do we cut our loved one off? When do we decide that it's enough drinking? Okay, that last part. We see that our stuff is melting a little bit. I'm going to let y'all in on one of my cheat codes. I have an old candle here that is burned down too much, so I stabbed it a little so that I can pour some of this already scented wax in here. It's going to change the color and add a little bit of nice fragrance. So while we wait for that to go. And so I've been waiting to see innovations in age tech that handle this isolation and depression. I know of one startup that tried to create sort of chat rooms for elderly people. It didn't quite work out. One of the learnings that I'm hearing about when I talk to business owners is that it's hard to make money doing something where you're counting on people to seek out in social interaction. And it's a place where we know there needs to be help, but most people expect that this is a resource that's provided to them for free. And it is in some communities. Senior centers do a lot of good. Meals on Wheels does a lot of good for this. And there just needs to be more. So some different things that I've been seeing in the world of age tech, specifically for this, is I saw recently AI service that provides phone calls and check-ins to people that are otherwise alone. It's an AI agent that's calling, so there's a little bit of, it's still pretty new and not everybody is accepting of it, but it's out there and someone's building it. I'm also seeing services like Uniper. Uniper goes on your TV. You connect it to your TV, and I saw it marketed as a senior center in your home. It's where there are classes and activities that come through the screen. There's an opportunity to talk with other people that are also using Uniper. So I love to see things like that that help someone feel more engaged with the people in their community or people outside of their community in a safe place, because the internet is kind of a scary place for someone that's lonely, isolated, and depressed. And I'd love to see companies working to provide safe spaces for seniors to go and participate. All right, let's take a look at this. I'm going to move our wax around and see if it melted. Waiting for some melting action. Now, part of my passion about this industry is that I'm always watching, I'm always listening, I join groups to hear what families are experiencing and what they're going through. So one of the things about my passion for this industry is that I love to watch and listen about what people are going through in real life. So I'm members of Facebook groups and Reddit groups where people talk about this stuff. And one really neat way that I've seen some families help with this loneliness and isolation is by hiring someone to go on vacation with them, someone that is a caregiver. There's one registered nurse that I watch that takes families on vacation, so that the nurse can stay with the elderly person while the family builds great memories with them and also is able to relax and have their own vacation and not be a caregiver. And so that's one thing to look for if you're looking for a way to connect with your family, make some once in a lifetime memories. That is one way, and it's a possible way. It is a service that is out there. And another one I'm seeing that's making me frustrated, or that I see a lot of families be frustrated about, is the phones. With isolation comes the elderly answering every phone call. And as you know, phone calls are not to connect. Phone calls are usually to sell you something. And I see this a lot, that people answer the phone, and even if they're selling you a deal, the elderly person just wants to talk and hear about it because it could be a good deal and they have the time to listen to it. So some things that I would recommend: as working in this space, I've been a part of large call centers where the goal is to get people to answer the phone. So you call and you call and you call to get them to answer the phone so that they buy whatever service you're selling. I got out of that business because that's not what I wanted to do with my time. But I would recommend screening phone calls and blocking any numbers that are unfamiliar. That will just help cut out some of the random cold calling that happens, because it's not good. Nothing good comes from picking up a random phone number that your loved one doesn't recognize. Another interesting thing I learned from working in call centers is that if you're getting spam calls and you answer it, that data is kept. So the company knows this person, if you call them, they have a 50% chance of answering the phone. They have a 100% chance of answering the phone. And if the chances are higher that you'll answer the phone, then they're going to keep calling. And that's something important to explain to your loved ones, is not that any of my loved ones have taken my advice on that, but if you answer once, they're going to keep calling. If you answer twice, they're going to keep calling more. So it's better to just block the number or put the setting on that doesn't allow unrecognized phone numbers to come in, to keep your loved one away from sales tactics that are usually not for their benefit, especially with Medicare calls. That's one complaint that I hear a lot, that when it's time for Medicare re-enrollment, the calls just come in and then people answer the call. And if you answer the call, then they're going to keep calling you, and different companies are going to keep calling you. And something else you should know is that these companies sell the data to each other. So if your loved one answers the phone, that data gets kept and sold to another company that also sells Medicare or whatever service that your loved one might be interested in. They know in the data, they'll send a file that will say, rank people in order of how likely they are to answer the phone, how likely they are to purchase something. This includes infomercials. Please don't let your loved one call an infomercial phone number, because if you call, they keep track of who buys and who wastes the time. So I guess if they're wasting the person's time, they can call if they're not actually going to buy anything. But if it's someone that does buy, just know that that data center knows, and they're going to push them to the very front of the queue so that they can collect that credit card information quickly instead of answering the call of the person that's wasting time. So be very wary of data. I think people assume that data collection and the data security is only an issue with the internet, which it definitely is. We can talk about that in a minute. But it's also on the phone. Your phone data is being collected. So just be aware of that. Explain that to your loved ones. Know that for yourself. You can always request to be removed from a list, but it's not guaranteed that it'll happen. The best way you can protect yourself is just not answer the phone. Let's talk about text messages. No, let's not. Take that out. Let's not talk about that. All right, for our craft, this is sleepy time. I'm going to get this pretty blue, and we're going to make an ombre blue. So we're going to start off with a real light blue. We're going to end the top with a dark blue. So I'm going to start cracking some of this off and putting it in our wax mixture. So we have just a hint of blue. I saw a story recently about someone. I keep reading. Pick that up. I keep reading stories about romance scammers, about people that find each other on a dating site or a prison phone call or Facebook, where someone finds a person and just inserts themselves into that person's life. No, cut that out. Start over. All right, we're back. Oh, wax changed colors. We put a hint of blue in this, a little bit of broken blue crayon. Here it is. And this is the amount of blue that our wax turned. Let me shake it around a little. Ooh, I don't know if you can see the pretty swirls, but it's nice. All right, back to our conversation about isolation and loneliness. Let's get real for a minute about what it's like to age and what our loved ones experience when they have cognitive decline. And something that I see and hear a lot is my mom doesn't want to do anything. She doesn't want to go anywhere. I tried to bring her to the family wedding, tried to bring dad to the movies. And the truth is that our bodies are different. And our brains are different as we get older, especially if there's cognitive decline. And going out isn't fun anymore. Going out can be kind of scary, and it's important to acknowledge that and to be okay with it. But even though we're being okay with it, it doesn't mean that we don't grieve it. There's a grieving process that happens when our loved ones start to lose the ability to be the person that they were before, the mom or dad that you remember. And so doing social activities or going out somewhere starts to become not fun, and you got to be okay with it. You got to let it go. You got to find things to do in the house or find out what it is that's freaking them out, if they'll tell you. A lot of times it's bathroom related or it's walking related. It could be that the walking has become too much or just the uncertainty. I know that my Nana didn't like to get out much toward the end because there was this uncertainty of I having no control over the situation, not knowing when we're going to leave, not knowing how long you have to wait in the waiting room, or whatever the situation is. So it's good to be aware of that. So some things you can do if you really want your loved one to go out, you can help them understand what the plan is. I found that just explaining the plan can be helpful, and also making accommodations to make it a little bit less scary. So bringing a travel wheelchair, if they're into that, if they'll take it, that's an option. Bringing a bag with a change of clothes just in case there's an accident. Even suggesting that they wear, some adult briefs just in case. Some people I know will not be into that and won't take it. Just giving ideas though. When I worked in a memory care, I worked there for about 3 years. I was the director of the memory care and did all the activities. And I started to learn the different reasons why people would say no. And sometimes I would push them, but sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes if they're comfortable staying home, then just stay home and it's okay. But for other people, I would make sure they knew what the plan was, reassure them that they're in control. And one thing, as in this industry, but also as a parent, that I've had to be okay with is you gotta be okay letting stuff go sometimes. If you wanted to stay later and you can't stay later, just go home. If that's what helps your loved one feel better about going out, that they can tell you, hey, I'm ready to go, and you go, that could be the change that they need. So it's about trying new things and finding what works and giving yourself some grace and giving your loved one some grace. And also setting boundaries that you didn't have to have before. Maybe you didn't have to leave urgently before because mom said she wanted to go, but offer that and see if that'll help. For some of my residents, that would help. I would reassure them that as soon as you say you want to go, we go. And then you stick to that. You don't argue, you don't say why, you don't try to convince them, because the next time you try to get them out, it's not going to happen because they don't trust that you'll leave. They don't trust they'll have control over the situation. Everyone wants to have interaction though. So if out of the house outings don't work anymore, then bring the outing into them. Now with food delivery, things are easier. Maybe you're bored. Maybe you don't know what to do with someone. My advice as someone that has lost all of her grandparents now is just ask questions. Just say, just tell me stories. They tell me what it was like when you were working, or what did your childhood look like? Sometimes people ask very specific questions or even leading questions based on the stories that you remember. So one idea to get people to open up is to, instead of saying, tell me about the time that this happened, instead have them describe things from their past or their childhood. Say, describe what your house was like. Tell me what your siblings were like growing up. Tell me what kind of parents you had. And people will open up. Whether or not there's cognitive decline, especially if someone has cognitive decline, those older, settled childhood, teenager memories are usually more accessible than the recent memories. So instead of quizzing them on things that just happened or anything like that, use phrases like, tell me about your first job. What did you have to do? Because they can dig into that memory and they can picture it. They can see it. They can place themselves there and they can tell you all about it. And those are some of my favorite memories to hear about. I asked my grandma once, who would talk about her career all the time. She had a fascinating career. She was an emergency room nurse back in the 60s. Nursing looked a lot different than it does now. And I had heard the stories. I had heard that she was on one of the first life flights. I had heard that she helped in the first heart transplants. But I wanted to know more. And I knew that she was getting older. And I took her out to eat one day at IHOP. We sat at IHOP. And I just said, tell me more about it. Tell me what it was like to be a nurse then. Tell me what's different. Tell me what you had to do that they don't have to do now. And it was amazing. She told me about the nurses were responsible for titrating the medicines and for mixing and compounding the medications on their own. They would just talk to the doctor and the doctor would tell them what they needed and they would have to make that medication by themselves and then inject it or give it orally to the client. She described different accidents that she saw. She described the schooling that she had to go through, years of school, which I guess isn't too different from now, but she trained in Russia. And it was so amazing hearing the stories. But that's one way to get your loved one to open up, is to ask open-ended questions and to ask questions about the time in their life that was so formative. Don't ask about when you were a kid. Don't ask about last week. If you really want to get someone talking, tell them to describe like it's a picture. Describe to me what it was like going to school, or if Christmas is important, describe to me what it was like when your family celebrated Christmas. Our blue wax is super blue. So we're going to pour it in now as you keep talking about loneliness, isolation, and everything that comes with it. My fingers are hot. Make a layer on each of these. Maybe it's too soon for this guy. And make some mistakes and just keep on moving. When it comes to loneliness, sometimes we underestimate our loved ones. We underestimate how involved they want to be, how much they hear. I know that one thing that I've seen is that we just assume that that person is not capable of changing in a positive way. So we start hiding things from them. We start saying, oh, they're not capable of hearing this or learning new information. I would be careful with that. Sometimes our loved ones can handle more than we think they can. I know there are family dynamics and things that come in. But I recently read something that I was going to read now. It's from a book that I like to look at called 14 Friends Guide to Elder Caring. This is really just 14 friends that were aging together, and they wrote a book together about how to handle some of the difficult things we deal with at the end of life. So I like this passage. This is called Never Underestimate Your Parents' Abilities. Friends of mine, a couple, went to considerable and inconvenient lengths to hide from her failing mother that they were living together, though they were not married. At least once a year, her mother would come to town and the man would essentially move out, hiding all evidence of his residence in the apartment. After more than 3 years of this nuisance, before the next visit of the elderly mother, the couple finally telephoned to announce that they were engaged to marry. At this, the mother said, "But have you considered living together for a while first?" Maybe too infrequently, we underestimate the abilities of the older generation to keep up with the times. Failing physically does not necessarily mean failing awareness or inflexibility. There is dignity in allowing people to make choices and take risks. I love that passage. I think I connect with that. As my grandmother was aging and getting closer to the end of her life, I started being more honest with her than I did in the past. And I remember telling her, listen, I met a guy and we had moved in with each other within about 6 months of dating, which is, to a super Catholic woman, I didn't think she would take it well, but I was very surprised that she was happy for me. And he's now my husband, and she knew that. She knew that we wanted to be serious and get married. So yeah, don't underestimate your loved one's ability to hear information, to know about what's really going on in your life. You might be surprised because people start to withhold information for fear of scaring them, of sending them into a heart attack, fear of upsetting them. But consider being more honest and consider involving them in your life, because sometimes getting cut off from that is what leads to the feeling of isolation and loneliness, because nobody's telling them what's really going on. No one's treating them as a person. They're treating them as an old person that can't handle it. So just consider that as you're caring for your loved ones. All right, got one more layer on this, and then we're going to put some things on top to make it look pretty. And we'll take it out, and I'll show you all the final product of our Sleepy Time air fresheners. to the last segment of this conversation, I wanted to talk about just calling on the phone. Said before, your loved one shouldn't be answering the phone if they don't recognize the number, but I do encourage you to encourage all the people in your life to call your elderly loved ones. I've been hearing that's like a complaint lately from seniors, is that they were used to a time when you would call your friends on the phone. If you cared about someone, you would call them. So I encourage you to not let a year or more go by without calling your elderly loved ones on the phone. I mean, even less than that. You shouldn't let a year go by, but if you're going to let time go by, a year is too much. So make sure you call the people you love. Make sure they know that you love them. Set boundaries with the ones you need to. Not everybody is someone that is going to get a phone call from you all the time. In your process, I actually don't like how this left. I'm going to do one of these two, but that's it. I think it looks fair. Let's move on. Left. Oh yeah. Thanks for joining me while I made these. We'll take them out in a minute and see how they come out. Too much oil. Oh, look how cute this is with the ombre. It's like a little pond. One of the orange roses. Look how cute it is. Flower. Uh-oh. All right, part of it broke. And here it is. All right. Well, thank y'all for listening to me and watching and hanging out with me while I'm doing my crafts. This is awkward for me. I want to start making content. I want to start starting conversations about all the things I'm passionate about. This was the first attempt. So thanks for joining me. And it's like a little soft. Yeah. If you ever want these, I can send them to you. I don't do anything with these. I give them away as gifts. So if you want them, tell me. I'll be happy to give them to you. You might not want these because they're. I'll put these in a bag. Ooh, this one. I'm not convinced that it's totally dry yet. It's got a little, little messiness to it, but look at that dark blue that's got all the pigment. So thank you guys, and I will see you soon. Bye.